right, I'm going to wait for Rob to start recording. I see we're recording now. So good morning, everybody. I'm James from Comprehensive Life Resources. And again, you're at the Coalition to End Homelessness. A couple of notes. We're going to do our best to move the conversation along and give everybody presenters. And if time allows, we have a goal of doing breakout groups as part of our presentations at the youth panel, like we did last week. It does help during the different times if you're able to either change your name to like your name and your organization, or at least some way to identify the role you play at your organization, or why you're here. It's helpful as we try to get to know each other, as well as when you either ask questions or if you're able to keep your camera on, that's awesome. So we can, again, get to know you. Not a requirement, but definitely an encouragement for those at least that are presenting and asking questions. And when we go to the breakout groups, it's great to try to build this network. We have a big agenda, at least we potentially do, depending on how long all the speakers go. So I want to just get right into it and hand off to Lauren for the Census Bureau 2020.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lorraine Ralston from the U.S. Census Bureau, and I'm not sure if I'm actually being joined by one of my colleagues, Michael. He might be on the phone, hoping he called in. But I want to thank Rosemary and the group for inviting us to talk to you this morning about the upcoming census count of the homeless. So for those of you who've been involved with the census, and I see a lot of familiar faces here this morning, you know that we were originally planning on counting homeless people back in March. That was postponed because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And we are now planning to do the count on September 22nd through the 24th. So that's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, in 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. We are planning on following the same process that we would have done back in March, where one day we will count people at service provider locations, places like food banks, soup kitchens, mobile food vans, those kinds of locations. One day we'll be going to shelters where people are actually spending the night. And the final evening, the evening of September 23rd into the morning of September 24th, we will be counting people who are living outdoors. Our operations team has been hopefully working with those of you who are service providers to homeless people. We have a database that we developed earlier this year of locations and places that we're going to be counting people. If you manage one of those facilities, you probably have been contacted by the Census Bureau recently for us to schedule a time to come to your facility between September 22nd and the 24th. If you haven't been contacted, I can get your information, or Rosemary or someone from the group can pass that Garrett can pass that information on to me, and I'll make sure we get it to our operations team. The one thing that we've been trying to identify that would be new from what we had planned to do in February and March is we want to identify locations, outdoor locations where people might be living that they weren't living back in February when we compiled our list. So this is really those post-COVID locations that have come up as a result of the pandemic. So we did have a list of tent camps and parking lots, parks, the 24-hour laundromats where people might be living in their cars, places like that. We had compiled this list already, but we did want to make sure that we identified any new locations that did not exist back in February. So hopefully we don't have many of them, but I know we do have some of those locations, and we're passing that information off to our operations team. Michael, are you actually on the call? Okay. We have some problems with Zoom. We can't actually access Zoom with our government system, so we have to use our personal phones and laptops. So I'm not sure if he's actually made the call. So I just didn't want to I wanted to give him an opportunity to talk if he's on. The other thing that I think Rosemary wanted me to address was what can you guys do to help us? Obviously, if you know of any new locations where people might be living, please feel free to pass it off to me and I will get it to our team to make sure that we canvass every place in the county so that we count everyone within the county. By default, we are planning on canvassing all metropolitan city parks and metropolitan freeway underpasses. So we are planning on looking in those areas to see if people are living there. By default, we're going to do that to make sure that we're covering as much of the county as possible. One thing that might be a little bit of a difference from what we were planning on doing originally, or what we had changed our plans to do, is during the evening count of September 23rd, when our team is going out, we will be asking people to be interviewed, and if they're willing, we will ask them the 10 questions that's on the census. So if someone's willing to talk to us, we will go ahead and capture as much of the demographical information as we can. If people are not willing to talk to us, then we're just going to do a head count that evening. We were also looking for locations to have what we call base camps that night of September 23rd. These would be places where our specially trained staff can congregate, get their assignments, have access to toilets, things like that. I'm hoping that our operations team has already been in touch with you guys. I know we've been setting up locations in many different counties, so hopefully we've already got that on board for Pierce County. I haven't been notified that we need any additional places, so I'm hoping we're okay. I'm going to leave it there. I know you guys have a very long agenda this morning of other things, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys might have.
Great. If you do have a question or two, at this point, I'm just going to ask you just to unmute yourself and jump in to the best of your ability. And if you can also show your share video, that would be awesome, as well, as we're trying to use this time for networking as well. But we got about, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes or so to ask questions.
I guess, hey, Nate from Comprehensive. So just like I said in the chat, we're forming kind of a scouting committee on the homeless outreach team to go out and both take in referrals about locations for camps, and also just to kind of figure out where they are out in the community so that we can start planning our mobile outreach clinic a little bit better in the future. It would be really cool if you could, if we could connect at some point to figure out what the places that you have, so that we can, give you the other spots where folks may be popping up, which I just threw in the chat. So, and yeah, Teresa, we'll get that out as soon as we have something a little more formal now.
Great. Nathan, if you can drop me your email address in the chat box, I will connect you with our operations team in the Tacoma office. They are the people responsible. They're the ones that are going to do the count. And I want to make sure that you guys are talking to the right people. I don't want to be a roadblock to getting information to the people who are actually going to do the count. Thank you. Any other questions?
My questions run along the lines of, what have people discovered as the best ways to present the census to individuals that might interest the individuals in participating? The big thing I always hear in the public announcements is, oh, it'll bring money to the community. What does it bring to the individual, and how are you presenting that to the individual who we want to try to get to participate in the census? That's a question to everybody.
Well, I'll jump in there. One thing that we like to emphasize with people, and we need your help to do that because you guys are the trusted voices within this particular community, is just to make people aware of how important the census is to their everyday life. So a lot of you are service providers. You may actually get funding from the state or from the federal government. You may apply for grants to provide those needed services in the community. And a lot of that money is, the funding level is determined based on census data. So if we don't count people, we're not getting that money back into our community. And those are our tax dollars coming back into the community, whether it's providing community services like the food banks or shelters or things like that, or health clinics, health care, the roads that people use, all of those things that make our communities better. So that's certainly something that we want to emphasize with people, all people, about why it's important to be counted. I think also we want to emphasize that people should not be afraid of being counted, that we are prohibited by law from sharing any of the personal information that we collect through the census. Every census employee takes a lifetime oath to protect that personal data. So we will not give that information over to any person or any agency, any government agency. We're just there to count people. So we want people to feel safe. We want them to understand why it's important to them. And we want them to understand we're not handing this over to the city, to the sheriff, to HUD, to anybody else, to ICE. That is not the intention of what the census is there to do. So that's kind of the messaging that we'd like to get out. And we certainly ask for you all to help us get that message out and make sure that people feel that it's important to them to be counted and that they want to participate with us when we do come out to count people.
Good, I like that. It still seems to me that we should put some emphasis on the service side of that rather than the money side of that. We get the money, we give the services. We need to be able to frame it in a way that says, we need you to participate in the census so we can continue to serve you, rather than that it brings money to the community. That's my point.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. This is Stephen Whitmore from the ACT program. I just want to follow up on the question that was posed by the gentleman. And I heard what you said in terms of protecting those identities that of those who might be skeptical. But I'm thinking, what got me thinking is what mechanism is in this initiative or endeavor in order to ensure that those who have, a pretty legitimate reason to be skeptical or cynical, of their information being used, against them, historically, especially those communities that have been impacted by historical, institutional and systematic racism, this being a government kind of apparatus, what kind of protections in terms of the mechanism of it do they have? So for instance, is there any way that race or gender or sexual orientation would not necessarily need to be included in the information that's collected?
Well, in answer to your question, what protections are there for the data itself that we collect, whether it's through the census or any of the many surveys that we do every year? There is a federal law, Title 13, that protects this information. The law went into effect in the 1950s, and since the 1950s, there has never been a violation of the Census Bureau releasing that information. People have tried to get that data using warrants. They have tried to get it under the Patriot Act. This has gone all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has upheld Title 13 on numerous occasions, where we do not turn the personal information over. We collect it, we keep it for 72 years, and then we release it publicly. So we do release it eventually, but it's 72 years after we collect it. So, I mean, all I can say is that's what we can tell people. Every Census Bureau employee takes an oath. There's stiff federal penalties if we release personal data. So we can assure people that that is what the law says. I can't predict what the future is, but that is what the law says. And up until now, there's never been a violation. With regards to the specific questions, we want to collect as much complete and accurate data as we can. So many decisions are made every day with this data that affect our lives that we want to make sure we have accurate data. The 10 questions are on the census for a specific reason. A federal agency has asked Congress to include this question because it needs to collect this data to support a federal law or a federal program or something. We don't just ask these questions willy-nilly because we're curious. So there is a specific reason why each question is asked, why it's worded the way it's worded, and what the answer options might be in some of those categories where it's a multiple choice. Congress approves all the questions. Congress approves all the possible answers in the multiple choice. However, that being said, if someone does not want to share their personal information with us, if they don't want to give their race or their age or their sex, we will skip the question. You can certainly skip the question online, and you can do it over the phone. And if you're being interviewed and you don't want to answer the question, we will skip it. A census worker is not going to look at somebody and say, oh, you know what, Lorraine, you look white and you look like you're 50 years old, and fill it out on your behalf. If you refuse to give us the information, we do not arbitrarily fill it in based on what we think you would be answering that question. So you can skip a question if you like.
I think in the effort of time, I'm going to have that be our last question. But Lorraine, if you'd be willing to put your email in the chat box. So, and we're recording this and we can send out the minutes later. But if you have more questions, I'm sure people will start to think about interpretive services and a variety of other things they would love to ask. But I wanted to make sure we got a chance to highlight your request and then send questions directly for Lorraine in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Lorraine.
Thank you. And we'll start to transition to our next conversation. If you were here last week, we tried something a little bit new at the request of the little informal survey we took of the coalition. And we're trying to do this month of September with kind of themed days each Friday with a panel of providers in that theme of services. Last week we did shelters. And this week we're doing youth and young adult services. So we're gonna do kind of micro presentations. I would ask that the youth and young adult providers, for those that don't live in this world, if you could identify the age range that your specific program serves as well. It wasn't in my questionnaire, but sometimes youth, young adult, there's under 18, over 18, 20, up to 25, 16 to 24. Like there's a bunch of weird variations of what your different programs do. But if you would also highlight the age range of the clients you serve, that would help. So to kick us off, I gave Greg permission to go first from Coffee Oasis, since I know that he had another meeting coming up against time. So Greg, if you kick us off with Coffee Oasis.
Thanks, James. My side says that you guys can see my screen. Is that correct? Okay, cool. So thanks for this opportunity. My name is Greg Walker. I am the Pierce County Area Director for the Coffee Oasis, and my contact info is on there. If you go in the chat box and you scroll all the way up to the very first post in the chat box this morning, I have shared this PowerPoint. So if you want to access it later, you can get it that way. I also have on the call Sid Sandstrom. Sid is our youth program director. He will be sticking around for the discussion groups. I'm going to have to jump off at 10, unfortunately. So, but you can ask questions to Sid as well. So who are we? I put our mission statement in there and I put it in annotated because we put a lot of meaning in a few words, and sometimes it helps to expand that meaning. We're really focused on changing the world for homeless and vulnerable youth. And when we say changing the world, not just changing that youth's experience, but also changing the world around that youth. And I added young adults. I'll mention it again later, but when we talk about youth, we're referring specifically to 13 to 17-year-olds or under 18. Young adults to us is 18 to 25. We serve that entire population, although when we talk a little bit about shelter in a minute, our shelter is focused on under 18 youth. Our organization is bigger than Pierce County. I represent the Pierce County wing of our organization, but our goal is to extend our services throughout the community, throughout the county. In this context, we do offer kind of a continuum of services, and we're strategic about that. So our organization began in Kitsap County, and when they started, there weren't a lot of other support organizations doing similar things. So in Kitsap County, we've kind of become comprehensive. We cover everything from, you know, the entire spectrum of services to assist youth. Pierce County is very different in that we have a lot of partners in Pierce County. So there's no sense in us doing something if one of our partners is doing it as well or better. We want to collaborate. So we're very strategic about what services we're going to provide in each community. The last part is sustainable coffee businesses. One of the things that's cool about Coffee Oasis and that really drew me to them is we operate coffee shops. In Kitsap County, there are 5 retail coffee shops. We try to offer gourmet, first-rate experiences for hanging out with your community. We believe it offers a place for youth to come in and engage and be safe in a very approachable way. They're not going into a clinical setting right away or some sort of sterile thing that can be somewhat off-putting. Then come hang out in our coffee shop and begin engaging our services. It's also a way for the community to start coming in contact with this very misunderstood or underappreciated issue of youth homelessness. And finally, it helps us raise revenue and create job opportunities for the youth we serve. So I listed there 20 plus years we've been doing this in Kitsap County. You see this full menu of services. It represents the continuum that I'm talking about in Kitsap County. In Pierce County, we're fairly new. So in 2018, some of our citizens in the Pierce County area recognized a significant unmet need as far as the fact there were no emergency shelter options for youth that are under 18 years old. Next bullet is we are not the Oasis Center. We recognize that long before Coffee Oasis came to Pierce County, the Oasis Center has been here for longer than we've been in existence, serving youth, LGBTQ youth in our county. We have recognized that there is a lot of confusion that can result from that name, and we are working on how do we take our name that's been our identity for a long time in another county and make that to where we're not confusing with our partners. And Oasis Center has become an excellent partner for us, and we work very closely alongside them, and we're thankful for them. We opened Sarah House in 2019 to meet that unrecognized need. Sarah House is a DCYF licensed emergency shelter. We serve 13 to 17-year-old youth. Key there is non-dependent. If a youth is a dependent of the state, or if they're in foster care, if they're under the supervision of CPS, we are not allowed to serve them. That's one of the challenges with what we do is we have to figure out when a youth comes to the shelter who their guardian is and get permission from their guardian. If a youth comes to us I say all this because this is a very tricky path that we are pretty proficient in navigating. Most youth don't want to a lot of youth that come to us don't want their parents contacted. They don't, if they're foster care or are concerned that they might be placed into the state dependency, they don't want to engage us. They don't want to come to the shelter. We are pretty adept at navigating those situations to get it to where the youth can stay with us and can receive our services in the shelter. This restriction around non-dependent youth is only around the shelter. All of the other services we provide, we can do with anyone, dependent, non-dependent, et cetera. So I want to make sure that's clear, but it's a tricky path to navigate. It's a requirement of our license. And we work well with it to make sure that our priority is to serve the youth however we can and however we can navigate all those rules. So if you got specific questions, happy to delve into that deeper. We still every day are working out the details of how we do this well, but we don't want to turn anyone away. And we want to serve the youth as best we can. The other key program that we have, so the information up there, 6 beds, we can allow up to a 150-day stay or until a youth turns 18. That's our street address here in Tacoma. Talked about our outreach program. Prior to COVID, we were actually in the Tacoma public schools doing outreach there. right now, since COVID took effect, obviously there's not much of anything going on in schools, but we're maintaining a relationship with approximately 65 youth, primarily in the Tacoma, Parkland, Spanaway areas of Pierce County. We haven't made it to East County much yet, but we're also just recently started doing outreach on the Key Peninsula, and have relationships going out there, and we're building that out. I say basic services to intensive case management. I'll show you a little more on the next slide on that. Talked about a little bit where we were in Mount Tahoma, Lincoln, and Oakland high schools prior to their closing, and we still maintain relationship with the school staff and get a lot of referrals from them asking us to connect with a youth and see how we can support them. This slide I stuck in the middle because this is the order that James put his questions. How do you access us for the shelter? That's our voice number, which is available 24/7. If you get a busy signal, call back. And if you get voicemail and you don't get a response in a very short period of time, call back. We want to be able to, we want somebody to be able to pick up the phone, call us, and get a voice. Youth may self-refer. You may refer youth to us. Any other partner agencies can send youth to us. The one thing we are not allowed to do by our federal contract is a parent is not allowed to drive a youth to the door and drop them off to us. Now, if the youth walks up from the curb, we don't know how they got to the curb, and we'll take them right in. But the federal requirement says that a parent cannot drop a youth off at our shelter. So if that looks like what they're doing, we may ask them to drive away. And if the youth walks back on their own, we will be happy to take care of them. Street outreach information. Julie Easley is our street outreach lead. That's her phone number. That's a Google Voice number so that she can turn it off at night, because Julie has trouble with boundaries and not taking care of our youth 24/7. So that is a number that can be published. You can share it with anybody, voice or text, if you want. If you see a need or want to put somebody in touch with her, that's how you get a hold of her. Youth program director, Sid oversees all of our youth programs, including the shelter, street outreach. That's his contact info there. And I'm going quickly just because I know we got a lot on the agenda. So client services. For shelter residents, we try to be comprehensive case management, complete wraparound services, address anything the youth needs. If we don't have the expertise, we're going to partner with whoever in the community does have that expertise. And we reach as far as up into King County and down into Thurston County for housing assistance and other programming, that type of thing. So we try to cover whatever our shelter youth needs. On the street outreach side, we start with basic needs. We offer, we've got food that we carry with us, clothing, blankets, things like socks, all of that kind of stuff. Obviously, we're looking for, does the individual need any kind of shelter? Can we help them get access to either our shelter or some other place where they can get in? I put light in case management in quotes because the intent is we don't do extensive case management. The reality is, if a youth connects with us and is seeking support, we are going to do everything in our power to support them. We have taken youth that were dealing with teen pregnancies and walked with them all the way through to being present in the delivery room at their request, helping them long-term. So it says light case management, but we do as much as we possibly can to help that youth and make sure that there's a warm handoff to other programs as they need it. Informally, some of the other things that we do on the street, we do crisis management. We've been involved with youth dealing with suicidal ideation, that type of thing, and we try to work through that with them and make sure they get connected to all the support they need. We have experience and do work in assisting youth that are trying to get away from trafficking situations or commercial sexual exploitation. In COVID-19, one of the things that's kind of evolved out of that is we do a lot of family food assistance. So we drive around with bags of groceries that we can, when we know of a youth or a youth and household that is food scarce, we use that as an opportunity to, one, meet that need, provide them with a couple of bags of groceries to address the immediate need, but also to open the door physically as well as metaphorically, to building that connection and being able to offer more. Really, the key to our clients' services is all this idea of supportive relationships. We want to be there to be somebody they can depend on and help get them whatever their needs are to move them forward. I want to share a little bit about what's in the works because we're a new organization, but we're growing quickly. We have a new location. This is not exactly a secret, but I haven't publicly announced it a whole lot because moving a shelter is a challenging thing from a logistics standpoint, as well as sometimes it's not always fully welcomed by the entire community. So we've kind of been working the logistics of that, but we're going to be moving to a new location in mid to late October. It's at the corner of South 15th and Tacoma Avenue, getting to a much better place for us. The other key piece of that is it allows us to double our capacity from 6 beds to 12. I will keep you updated on that as it develops. Again, the dates are a little bit in flux because of permitting, licensing, things like that. So we're going as quickly as we can. The other thing we're working on is we hope to be expanding our street outreach. We've applied for a federal grant from the Administration of Children, Youth, and Families Runaway and Homeless Youth Program. I've learned a whole new alphabet of acronyms working with the federal government. And that grant should be awarded around the end of this month and would take effect October 1st. Teresa, I see your hand raised. Can you let me just run through this? And I think I got one more slide behind it, and then I'll jump into questions real quick. So drop-in center. We have had a drop-in center prior to COVID in our current location. We will be opening a drop-in center in our new location. The full build out of that probably won't happen until next summer, in conjunction with opening our first coffee shop in Pierce County at that Tacoma Avenue location. We are looking at the possibility of opening an interim drop-in center activity sooner, because we're recognizing this is a need of youth who are going through distance learning to go to school, may not have a good place to be able to access internet and or the hardware they need, and possibly even some additional assistance for tutoring, mentoring, that kind of thing. So we're working very hard to dive into that space as fast as we can. We're actually piloting the idea in our current location with our shelter youth by providing them a dedicated space where they can go to school during the day and get the resources they need. The last 3 bullets there in brackets are programs that we offer in Kitsap County. We aren't currently doing here, but we're exploring how do we deliver those in collaboration with other community partners to either increase capacity that's already here in the community or to fill gaps that that may need to be filled. I put phase 3 on there just because I wanted to make sure to talk about this. Part of the property that we're moving into, we have a lease purchase option. We're going to lease the building that's right on the corner facing Tacoma Avenue. We have an option to purchase the entire property, which includes another building behind it. And that, when we purchase that, we're going to have that building contains 12 bedrooms of, right now it's rentable space that we're hoping we can turn into what I'm calling gap housing. And I'll talk about this on the needs, but this is really contingent on how fast I can execute a capital campaign to raise $2 million to buy this property. I'm hoping to have that done within the next year or so. So the James asked questions, and then I'll get to Teresa.
Craig, I'm gonna put you there a little bit as the presentations are gonna run a little long.
Okay.
If you would like to send this out, which you already did in the chat group, and maybe answer Teresa's one question, but we typically weren't gonna take questions in the panel format. We were just gonna let everyone present in new breakout groups. I'm assuming we're gonna run out of time for real breakout groups today. So go ahead and answer Teresa's one question, and then if you leave your information in the bar, the group chat bar, so people can follow up if they have additional questions, we'll go from there. So Teresa, I guess we'll let you ask your one, and then we'll move to the next presenter. Thanks for being flexible.
So thanks for the presentation, and I'm very grateful for the work you're doing with young people. I'm a little perplexed being a very close neighbor to the building you're buying or leasing, that none of the neighbors have heard anything about it. And I just want to give you a heads up that we are right now being heavily, heavily impacted by homelessness and encampments on our block. And to start something new without having a conversation with us feels not really comfortable. So I just want to recommend that you reach out to this community. I know the building you're talking about. I'm delighted to have it be used for something that we can actually support, but I think you need to be aware that our bandwidth is pretty damn thin right now. So something that comes from the side will not be necessarily received with as many open arms as if you would have a conversation with people. Thanks.
Got it. And I am aware and deeply aware of it. So paying a lot of attention to it, and I don't want to, I'm not dismissing it. I also, in past experience of doing similar projects in other communities, I know that if you announce too soon that you're going to do something that the neighbors are going to oppose, a lot of times it gets a lot harder to do it. So I'm balancing that. And I just want to share that's the mindset behind it, where our expectation is by doing what we're doing, we're going to help alleviate some of that tension by being able to provide services and address some of the bigger needs. So I understand though that it is a problem. And I will leave it at that. Again, this last slide with other questions is out there. My contact info, I'll put the slideshow and my contact info in the chat again, in case you can't get to it for some reason. And Sid will be available if you do make the breakout time to be able to answer more questions. So thanks for the time.
Thank you so much, Greg. And I'm sure that a lot of questions have been percolating, and I would love to give people a chance to ask them. But the way we're formatted today, we didn't set it up that way. So thanks again. And I did check, and I could scroll up, and I was able to download the PowerPoint. So if you want Greg's information or you missed something, we're both recording this, that you can check in our archives, as well as you can scroll up or see the PowerPoint that he'll put. So to continue our panel, I'm a little disorganized now, but I have Robert Taylor from the YMCA. Are you here? I think I see a name that could be perfect. Are you presenting on the YMCA?
I am here.
Drive? Awesome. Yeah.
Great. Good morning. Good morning. I actually have a previous very short PowerPoint that I can share with the group and just go through it really quickly and then save questions, of course. For later, there'll be some contact information as well in there. So if you want to give me...
I'm working on it for you now.
Thank you much.
All right, you should have that ability now.
All right. It wasn't, there we go. All right, can everybody see that all right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, there we go. Sweet. Backtrack here. Started at the very end. So my name is Robert Taylor. I am the program director of the Arlington Apartments with the Y Social Impact Center and in combination with the Tacoma Housing Authority. For those of you who are unfamiliar, the Y Social Impact Center is under the umbrella of the YMCA. It is a department that is geared toward youth and young adult services. So I work for the young adult housing arm. So the Arlington, as it says, was really designed to create a place for youth and young adults, or sorry, for young adults to call their own. It was built out of the growing crisis in Tacoma and Pierce County of youth and young adults struggling with homelessness and housing insecurity. Again, this is now a partnership in management between the Y Social Impact Center and Tacoma Housing Authority. There's going to be 58 units, 12 of them 2 bedrooms, primarily focused, those 12 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, sorry, for families with children. There's going to be a community room, barbecue pit, sport court, kids playground, everything you see there, community gardens, really a robust campus. It serves 18 to 24. So to be clear, you have to be under the age of 25 in order to apply. This means, so of course you can be a partnership, a couple, married, etc. But both of the people in that partnership need to be under 25 to enter the program. So one person can't be 24 and the other 26, 27, 30. And so I've been getting a lot of questions about that. So I just want to make sure that was clear. The goal here is going to be equity and opportunity for the young adults to be stably housed, build that skill set of life and growth. And we want to make sure at the same time we're representing the demographics that are disproportionately represented. So brown and black people, basically the BIPOC population, LGBTQIA. And so we are going to do our best, save having to make some difficult decisions because there's only 58 units, to make sure that we are serving everybody that is being affected. I'll get to referrals in just a second. Sorry. The teams that will be working at the Arlington will be my case management team, which will be 4 full-time case managers and 2 weekend part-time case managers. There will also be a second team from LifeSet of Youth Village that will be doing more therapeutic and intensive case management. So we're going to have everything and hopefully be able to provide sort of resources from mental health, SUD counseling, to employment, life skills. Really, we want the offerings of resources to be so robust that the tenants wouldn't want to take advantage. It would be kind of foolish, honestly, to not take advantage. And I say that because case management is not mandatory. So this was designed for the young adults to really be accountable. This is an apartment that they're going to manage and operate on their own, like any of us would in our own apartments. They'll have a lease that starts off with a year. And I'm skipping around. I get excited talking about it, and I probably had too much coffee. So to take a step back, on top of the resources there's going to be, again, on-site mental health and SUD counseling. There's going to be light medical and dental services provided by community healthcare that will be there every week, at least 3 to 4 days a week is my recent understanding. And again, the 2 case management teams. Requirements, it's designed to be as low barrier as possible with no income required. This is a tax credit unit or property. So everybody there will have to make under 50% of the AMI. The rent will be based on 30% of their income. If they have no income, the minimum rent set by THA will be $75. So to me, it's really, really great, really feasible. Again, even if you have no income, that's what the case manager will be there for, to help assist in building those resources and building that stability. We are going to have funds to help people move in. First month's rent will be due. So there'll be CDF funds. We just got word that there's some additional funding we're receiving as well. So we're really, again, trying to make this as low barrier as possible. You'll see here some of the eligibility requirements. Again, 18 to 24 at the time of move-in. They have to be currently experiencing homelessness or housing instability. They do need photo identification, which includes proof of social security number in some form or fashion, a legal document. Any form of income, so that includes benefits, will be factored into that income qualification. There are some other THA qualifications, such as legal backgrounds. Essentially, the major felonies will be some disqualifiers. So we're talking about drug distribution and manufacturing, child abuse, sex crimes, things of that nature, and arson are some of the main felonies that just will not be able to pass a THA background check. From there, the process, it starts with a referral. There's several people on this call who've actually already started sending me referrals. Fantastic, they are there. We are going to begin pre-screening assessments, which is what you see in step 2. next week for sure. There's just been so many hurdles that we're still working through, staffing and hiring being one of them, making sure we've got the right team. I've got the right team aligned and assigned. And so from there, the referral, the pre-screening assessment, which will be conducted by my staff and the other staff with the Y. And that will be an assessment that is essentially a tool to assess the case management needs and the suitability and supportive needs that any given tenant may need. So we're talking, we want to, again, be equitable about this. So we want to house people who have minimal needs. Maybe they just need employment, right? A leg up on some other life skills, and they just needed that roof over their head to get them stable. But then we also know we're going to see a lot of people that have high needs. People that have got trauma from various, for various reasons, SUD concerns, mental health, no money, all of the above, or even just one of the above can create, again, a host of issues for somebody that age. So we're going to be doing our best to provide that stability for people within those two and everything in between levels of need, support need. After the assessment, at this point, because we're in the ramp up period, let me take another step back. The building is not open yet. We will be, right now the goal is mid-October to start move-ins. So we're starting the pre-assessments now to start paperwork for those that we think will qualify with THA. So that's the last step there. Otherwise, everybody is going into a wait pool, not a wait list. This will not be first come, first serve. So again, it really is just about filling the units. Again, the 2 bedrooms are for families with children or households with children. And then everybody else, we're just trying to fill those that represent the young adult homeless community.
Hey, Robert, there's a real quick question about the AMI requirement. Is that only upon move-in? If a consumer makes higher income, will they be asked to leave? I would say the same thing about the age requirement. Is the age requirement upon move-in, or when they hit 25, they have to leave?
Those are the 2 biggest questions I get. So after the first year, they can stay if they want, but if they've got a job, all of a sudden in that first year, that takes them over that 50% AMI, they're going to be charged market rate rent. So the goal is to try to, while we're not kicking or pushing anybody out any faster than they need to be, the goal is to get people stable or get to a point where, hey, okay, you're in a position where you've got some stability, you've got a grasp on maybe some of the major issues, and maybe there's somebody who will never really be able to hold down a job, at least not anytime soon. And at that point, we'll try to work with them long before their lease is up to find another situation that might be more akin to what their needs are, so we can make room for the next individual. If somebody ages out, again, we aren't going to kick anybody out on their 25th birthday. We're going to be addressing, assessing where they're at long before the lease is up. And if they need a little bit more support, we're going to provide a little bit more support. But we'll also be working towards, again, is this somebody that is beyond the scope of the Arlington's care? Maybe they need more services. And we'll try our best to find them maybe a more true permanent supportive situation. And everybody will also be leaving with a Section 8 voucher as well, unless they are above the 50% AMI. So again, we are really trying to be therapeutic about this. Unless somebody is a true health and safety risk, again, that is way beyond our immediate scope of care, then that would be something that might call for an early removal or eviction from the property. But again, that's only if somebody is a major, major health and safety risk, and we've tried to work with them, and we just can't. And we're hoping that is very, very far and few between, but we also know that we can only really assess so many things in this pre-screening and uncover so many things. So there's just a lot of unknowns with that. But if somebody, for example, is behind on their rent, they're, yes, they will get eviction warning notices, things like that, correction notices like anybody else would with an apartment, but the case management staff will be there to be that stopgap, hopefully before that happens, right? And even when it does happen, the THA is going to come to us and say, hey, we've got a tenant that's struggling, they've got a couple late fees, or we've caught them doing some things on the property they're not supposed to be doing, letting people in, things like that, because it is a secure building. They're going to come to us for support for wraparound services for that individual. THA will be there on site Monday through Friday managing the property while our staff is doing the case management. So that's that tandem work we'll be doing together. I'm sorry I'm not looking at the questions at the moment, just getting through the PowerPoint for sake of time. This is the last slide, how people can help. We love community partners. Again, we're really, employment's gonna be big, life skills are gonna be big, money management, budgeting, all those things. So if you're an organization that can provide some of those things, by all means, reach out to me. For example, I've already developed a relationship with Workforce and another organization when it comes to employment. Goodwill is looking to do some budget classes, all these things. So really our imagination is the limit, right? As far as I'm concerned. While we don't want to hold any hands, we want to make sure they've got the resources there to start walking and running, right? And being accountable and becoming some strong, healthy young adults. So you see my contact. Oh, and again, making an informed referral is also important. We are doing our best. I'm doing my best to make sure that all organizations really, throughout Pierce County have the opportunity to make a referral. I could easily go to 2 organizations and get this building filled and get my weight pool filled in a handful of weeks. And that's just not fair. I've already gotten a couple people from some other organizations that have tried to hand down their entire caseload to me. And I understand that, and we will do all those assessments or as many assessments as we can, but I'm really not going to prioritize taking entire caseloads because I know that there's larger organizations and smaller organizations. We also want to allow room for self-referrals, and I want my team to be able to go out and do outreach as well. So with those 3 avenues of referrals, I want to make sure that every organization has an opportunity to make a referral. So when you do make a referral, if you're on this call, make sure you think it's somebody that will really benefit, whether they're high support needs, high acuity, or they don't need much at all. Just make sure it's somebody that you think might benefit and be most successful here. And again, I know there's things that you simply can't uncover. I know there's a lot of things we won't be able to uncover in the beginning. That's what we're here for. So I'll leave it there. The website is there. It's live. It's functioning, ever evolving. You also see the dedicated Arlington Apartments email address that right now just goes to myself and my supervisor, Aaron Fox, until we get some more staff on board. I'll stop there.
All right. Well, thank you, Robert. I think, again, with time, we won't take questions at this moment. I try to get a few in there. But we have at least 2 more presentations that I see I want to get opportunities to. But thank you so much. I'm probably one of the organizations, by the way, that have given you my whole caseload since I got the young
That's
adults.
okay.
But
I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. I just want to let everybody know I just won't be able to take everybody's caseload because, again, we'd have this building full from 2 or 3 organizations. So
definitely get it, and I won't hold it against you. Thank you so much.
Right.
On the same campus of Arlington is the New Directions, which is the CYS program. Tiffany Burns was going to present. She sent me a message, which I put in the chat box. I was trying to edit it so it was not all the information, but oh well, I sent it before I edited it. But she's apologizes she had to leave. There's some information about the services that she offers at the CRC. It's a 15-day temporary placement that serves 12 to 17-year-olds on the same campus as the Arlington Drive, which Robert just described. There's information for her if you want to contact Tiffany. And then underneath there, kind of munched together, is how you make a referral. The New Directions phone number says our information for referrals, New Directions, then the phone number, and the email is newdirections@, and then I cut it. Sorry about that. I will redo that part. But it is community youth resources is the rest of that. The same suffix as Tiffany Burns's email. So apologies for that. She was here. She had to leave, but there's the information. She's assured me she'll come back at a later date and do a full presentation. I I want to hand off now to Reach and ACT and the programs that both Devin and I have named Alana Mitt. So I've never met and I'm excited to meet, but Devin or Alana, take it away.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me here today. I appreciate it. So my name is Devin Isaacson. I'm the ACT program manager. I use she, her pronouns. And ACT program is a program within the REACH Center, which is a drop-in center for youth and young adults, 16 to 24. The ACT program specifically serves young people that are 12 to 24 years old, unaccompanied, meaning they are not in under a roof or in a shelter with a parent or guardian or older adult. And we serve them if they are housing unstable or literally homeless. So we serve all 4 HUD categories of homelessness. So we can offer services to young people that are couch surfing. We can offer services to young people that are in unsafe environments and trying to get out, as well as those youth that are in emergency shelter or living in vehicles or unsafe places not meant for habitation. We are very close to hitting our 2-year mark, so we're a relatively new program, and we consider ourselves an outreach team. There's 6 of us on our team, but we technically do quite a bit more than that. We actually use a diversion model of service, meaning that we offer a one-time, although it ends up being multiple times, a one-time assistance to help a young person achieve housing stability. And when we say housing stability, that's what the young people tell us is housing stability for them. So that could be reunification with family, it could be an apartment of their own, it could be an airplane ticket to Arizona where they have friend or family that will support them. And it's a very empowerment-based program. We are funded through multiple sources. We are partners with Building Changes. We are also funded through Office of Homeless Youth and Pierce County. And with that, I wanted to get my team involved a little bit so that y'all could see some faces. Outreach is super important and partnerships are very, very important to us. So I am going to actually turn it over to Marlon to talk a little bit about what it looks like to work with someone from our team and what we do.
Hello, everybody. My name is Marlon. I'm with the ACT program. I see a lot of faces that are familiar. Like Devin said, you know, we're a program that works to support the young person and whatever that plan is that they have. All of our team has lived experience in this, so we're peer outreach specialists. So we represent the folks that we serve, that we support. And so, you know, young folks, there's just a lot of barriers, different barriers that young people are coming up against, you know, to achieve housing. And we have just a really good connection with partners in the community, youth providing agencies, so that when it comes down to connecting folks with young folks with education needs, employment needs, social service needs, we're able to do that. We're able to give them that direct contact and connect them with a name and not just an agency, but connect them directly with the person. And so like I said, we've been around for a couple of years and we're just growing, continuing to grow. And yeah, I'll turn it to Jordan, our lead outreach specialist. Is Jordan on there?
Jordan, we can't hear you.
Or maybe there's some
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, it appears that is the case.
Yeah.
Yes. That's okay. I can kind of take over. So, Did she come back on? No. So one thing that we focus on very greatly is in what we call resource navigation. So every youth provider in Pierce County is a vital and super important partner of ours. And like Marlon was mentioning, when we encounter a youth that's in a unstable housing environment or experiencing homelessness, we focus in on getting them connected to resources, and we help them to navigate the system of care. And that's really important for young people because the system's a confusing place. And oftentimes it's really difficult to access the services that you need. Sometimes you're told no a lot, or told you're not eligible, different things like that. And so we really focus in on connecting youth to resources that are going to help them achieve their goals. A lot of that is done through our partnerships and through the really strong relationships that we have in the community. And so that is a primary responsibility of the team. I am happy also to announce that we have for the first time a housing navigator that is specifically for youth and young adults in Pierce County. They're also based at the Reach Center, and they are their own independent role, but we are able to refer young folks that are just needing assistance with housing navigation. They keep a kind of a group of landlords that are happy and willing to work with young folks that maybe don't have a good reference or don't have any rental history in their name. And that's been a really helpful tool for us. The Reach Center also just added a career pathways navigator who is specifically focused on offering employment opportunities for youth and young adults. So really, we kind of consider ourselves the first stop for a young person, and if they encounter us first, we can get them connected to anything that they need. I'm sure Robert could say that, you know, we've sent a lot of referrals his way too. James, you're not the only one. We didn't try to hand over our caseload though, I will say that. But definitely Coffee Oasis, Sarah House, we work very closely with the Beacon Center, the shelter. We actually just started bi-weekly case conferencing with both the Sarah House and with the Beacon Center so that we can really dive deep into the youth that are in shelter right now and get them out and really start focusing those efforts. So yeah, that's kind of us in a nutshell. It's a lot of information. I'm gonna drop in the chat the way that you can send a referral. So we actually have an ACT General line that we check Monday through Friday. We also have an online intake form. You can send a young person to that online intake. They fill it out, and then they will actually be contacted by someone on our team. And then we also have this really cool new feature on our Reach website. So if a young person goes to the Reach website, there's actually a live chat where they can ask questions and figure out where they need to be referred to get the services that they need. So I'm going to drop that for everyone. And yeah, that's all I have. And we have some other Reach folks on the call. So Alana, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks. Can you hear me okay?
You're kind of quiet.
Too quiet. Okay. I think it's a Chromebook. Let me see what I can do. Is that any better?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, my name is Alana Mitz. I use she, her pronouns. I am working with the Reach Center and Tacoma Community House as a part of the Eviction Rent Assistance Program. And I'm Eviction Rent Assistance Program Specialist, so ERAP for short. ERAP is state-funded money that we've received from the Department of Commerce. We've just received $1.2 million to disperse to youth ages 16 to 24 who have missed a rent payment as of March 2020, so as that have been impacted by COVID. And the goal with these funds is to provide rental assistance for 3 months, so we can pay 3 months of rent, and to prevent eviction so that, like, when the moratorium is over, the youth have a better chance of being able to remain housed where they are. We're also using these funds to promote equity. So we're intentionally focused on serving youth that are in disproportionately affected groups. So Latinx, Black, American Indian, and so forth, other marginalized racial identities. We are hoping to, we're hoping that the majority of our money can serve youth from those groups specifically. And then we're also using this as an opportunity to collect voluntary demographic information about youth, gender, and sexual orientation, to have a better idea of how many youth in Pierce County identify with other marginalized identities as they pertain to gender and sexuality. So that's the program. We just begun in the last 2 weeks. We're just getting rolling and getting applications in. And so you can access our application through a link, which I will put in the chat when I'm done speaking. Youth can go to that link directly. And right now we're working on doing some outreach so that youth are aware that the link exists and that it's open and that we're taking applications. But we've also just received, or will be receiving, a load of cases from Pierce County as they're also doing an emergency rental assistance program. So that will fill up our application too. But we're currently not full. We're still taking applications. And yeah, that's really the program in a nutshell. It's simple and easy. They see if they're eligible. So if they're 16 to 24, they've missed at least one rent payment since March, and they have a lease in their name in Pierce County, and they are below 50% of the area median income, then they're eligible for rent assistance. Devin, is there anything else you think I should add to that?
I think that's pretty thorough. Jason, do you have anything to add? I guess to summarize, we've kind of got it all covered right now. So if you have young folks struggling, you know, please send them our way. ACT can be the first stop. Alana's ERAP program can be the first stop. But we're definitely here to support youth in any way that we can. And Jason, if you have anything to add, I'll turn it over to you.
No, I don't. I think you guys said it very well. We right now have some resources for people who have missed rental payments. And so if you have young people, please get them connected on our website. And we're ready to go to cut checks. We're paying checks every Monday to landlords. And so there you go. It's a good opportunity, and we're happy to be a part of it.
Devin, is there anything else from the reach? I know that there's lots of arms of reach, and I want to make sure that you got everyone that was going to present.
I think that's it from our side. We do just kind of for the larger group, we do have a rapid rehousing program through REACH as well, but that's through a referral system through coordinated entry, as many of you folks know. And so we do have that service offering as well, but they would need to start with coordinated entry, which they can also do with ACT. They can do their coordinated entry intake with a member from the ACT team.
And maybe you said at the very beginning, I know that the ERAP program is 16 to 24, and Coffee Oasis is under 18 for the overnight, and then can be up to 24 for the day services. ACT actually has a kind of an interesting larger age group that they serve, correct?
Yeah, we're actually 12 to 24 unaccompanied. And just to kind of throw you for a loop, we actually have a homeless student stability program grant through Building Changes, where we can actually serve families in Bethel School District and also Sumner Bonnie Lake School District who are part of a family unit. So they don't need to be unaccompanied, but the service provisions are the same. We're just able to serve the entire household. So a parent or guardian can be in the household. So we kind of have, yeah, I know that makes it even more confusing, but.
Well, thank you. And then again, you can drop your information. I think you did earlier about how to make a referral to ACT and how to make a referral to ERAP. And if you have other questions, please follow up with Devin here. in the future, or any of the presenters. And we got one last presentation that's kind of a mixture of 3 presentations to do the Anchor Communities Initiative. I know that Valerie is here. I thought I saw her earlier, but I haven't looked in a while, to talk about the different arms. We have the ACI core team and the centralized diversion funds. So I'm not sure, Valerie, if you're going to kick us off and lob it. Yes.
Hi, yeah, so I'm actually going to introduce DC from CompLife. DC, are you on the call today to talk about ACI? James, do you see DC?
I didn't, but there's 62 people here and I have multiple screens going, so.
Yeah, so I'll give a quick update on Anchor Community Initiative, where it came from, and then I will hand it over to Tammy for centralized diversion funds. So the Anchor Communities, the Anchor Community Initiative is an initiative to end youth and young adult homelessness by 2022. So right now we are working with 3 specific process improvement plans. So what we are doing is going into the system that is currently exists in Pierce County for serving anyone ages 12 to 24 who are either unstably housed or literally homeless. And we're working through anything like from access to coordinated entry or access to permanent housing or access to working with landlords. And all of those things are process improvements. So we're doing tiny little changes to see what big changes we can make to make the system more efficient and fully transparent and fully open to the youth and young adults of Pierce County. We work very closely with Arlington. The core team meets every 2 weeks. The subcommittees meet every week to really push and move this work forward. We work, Away Home Washington and Office of Homeless Youth are our funders. And so that is how the ACT program actually came to be. This is all born out of the 100-day challenge, which felt like years and years and years ago, but it was only 3 years ago, believe it or not. And so this has all been born from that. And so the ACT outreach team came from the 100-day challenge, the 200-day challenge, and then our relationship and really focusing on that coordinator. So the Away Home Washington's requirements are anybody unsafe, unstably housed. That's it. So we work very closely with if a youth feels safe in their environment and if they need to be moved, then the system would serve that youth where they are. We have a primary focus of really tracking the data for BIPOC populations as well as LGBTQIA populations. And so that, as we know, is a more highly vulnerable population for youth and young adults, and they are more likely to see sexual trafficking, abuse, violence, and during homelessness and any other time. So that is a primary focus for the Anchor Community Initiative. So that's kind of just an overview of what it looks like right now. We work very closely. The core team is made up of school administrators, Pierce County, City of Tacoma, City of Lakewood's invited, and then all of the providers kind of spin in and out depending on what they are doing. This group also monitors a by name list. So any youth and young adults that are experiencing homelessness or unstably housed, including foster care, juvenile justice, and any other systems of care are included in a by name list. And I honestly have been so busy with rental assistance, I don't know the number on the by name list, but last time I looked at around 500. So that is 500 unsafe, unstably, literally homeless youth identified in Pierce County. We have a goal to get to a certain percentage housed by September, or the end of September, and we are working very diligently to get there so we can ask for Anchor Communities to report that out. DC is our amazing coordinator, so we can ask him to come and report out as we succeed in that goal and what our next steps are moving forward. So that's kind of a really quick, rough and dirty of the Anchor Community Initiative. And then Tammy, are you on the call to talk about the new and upcoming centralized diversion funds?
Yes, I'm here whenever you guys are ready.
I'm ready for you. Go for it.
All right. So like Val said, this is very new and we're getting kind of launched still. So there's a lot of things that, how do I want to say this, that we're still kind of getting more information, but I'll give the rough version. Centralized Diversion Funds, or CDF, is a low barrier diversion funding to help youth and young adult from the age 12 to 24 unaccompanied or experiencing homelessness youth to to obtain permanent housing. These diversion funds, like I said, are extremely low barrier. We are using our with this funding, we're able to be more creative and use creative solutions. So we can basically, what it can fund is it can fund almost anything that will directly lead to their permanent housing. So the ultimate goal is to end youth and young adult homelessness by 2022. That's the ultimate perfect goal, right? So it can a large array of different ideas and solutions. So say, I just want to give a few quick examples. So say there's, obviously we can help in with move-in costs. There is no limit to the amount requested. So that is one big thing with this funding is there is no limit. So there can be say they have a move-in cost of a huge deposit, huge first and last month's rent, but then they could sustain it afterwards. We're able to help with that. Or say that say they just need help getting supplies for their new job, and then their new job is going to help them end up with housing, then we can help them get those supplies for their new job to help them keep their job to help maintain their housing. So there's really a large array of creative solutions. There's almost, when I say low barriers, I mean, we are literally trying to help everybody with this funding. So within the community, if there are, sorry, my brain's kind of scrambled today, guys. The quickest or the best way to refer is if you have a client that there are different agencies within the community that have deputized staff. CLR has 4 deputized staff. I have 2 at the youth shelter and then 2 on our homeless outreach team. So I will put my contact information as well as their contact information in the chat, that you can reach out to one of the caseworkers at and what they'll do is they'll meet with you and the client. They'll do kind of a brief intake, and then they'll put the request into me. I am the admin, and I will process the funding requests and cut all the checks. I am looking through my notes trying to make sure I cover everything. As far as like I said, we do help 12 to 24 unaccompanied or experiencing homelessness. These diversion funds, I just want to be clear. Oh, yes, like I said, there is no cap amount of request, as well as there is no limit to the amount that the client can, like, multiple times. So say we help a client and then in like 6 months they lose that housing, they need help getting into new housing, we're able to help them again. There's not a limit to how many times we can help them. So it's a really great contract to really give us the extra span to help these youth and young adults. That's all my scattered presentation. That's pretty much the nuts and bolts of it. As we're moving forward, we're getting more things cleared up and getting more streamlined with it. So I'm happy to answer questions if we have time here in the chat, or I will put my email in the chat box, as well as you can email me or call me with questions, and I'm happy to help. Let's see if sorry, I just switched to my phone because my computer died. So now I'm trying to multitask over here. Chat. Maureen, that's a great question. Undocumented youth, I believe that we are still able to help them. I would say they could just refer them to one of the staff at CLR, and we'll be happy to help them and get them connected to any services that they may need.
Yeah, I would say, Maureen, just like the shelters don't require that you're documented in terms of a legal citizen. They just need to have proof of age to stay the night and the 18 and above. And similarly, the ACI funding, which allows us to do this program, the time you just described, it is for the age range, so under 18 and up to 24. But beyond that, the barriers are supposedly minimal. We haven't actually, we're live, like as of now, I guess any minute now, but we haven't actually cut our first check, so we're excited to get that going and learn that stuff. But we don't have any requirements as long as they can establish a place to live with the funding or address a barrier. It's not a requirement that they're a documented citizen. And Devin also stated that she similarly has the same protocols. I think we have, I don't know, a minute or two, but I wanted to just at least offer, is there anything final, Valerie, Tammy, that you wanted to share about ACI? I know DC didn't make it to talk about the core team, but I think Valerie covered the gist of it.
No. Oh, sorry, Val.
Okay. Well, we did run long on our presentations, but I think that was good. I kind of felt like Rob and I were talking when we saw everybody that we asked confirmed. I was like, whoa, that's a first. And that also means we're going to go longer. So with that, we would love to honor everyone's time, and we're going to go ahead and not do the breakout groups unless the government and other updates are like 2 seconds long and we have a bunch of time at the end. But I would like to transition to the updates. We have Jeff Rogers and Valerie from the county. So if there's any county updates, including your email that scared the bejesus out of me, which Valerie got an email back from me and said, slow your roll. And so definitely take that topic on, and other things from the county.
Good morning, this is Jeff. We wanted to give you an update on our eviction rent assistance program and a second program that we're calling a rental assistance program because we have 2 different fund sources that we're using for rental assistance. But in regards to our programs, we have temporarily shut down our application portal. And that application portal has been shut down due to the volume of applications that we have received. We've received over 3,000 applications. 777 households have been assisted. What a great number, wow. And there are roughly 1,700 that are still in the queue to be referred and receive assistance. Based on what we've seen with those 777 households and the amount of funding that they're receiving per month on a 2-month average, we can roughly serve just over 3,000 people with the current amount of funding we have. This does not include any funding that we're allocating to some buy-in-for organizations that are agencies who are basically operated by and for the community that they serve. Their primary mission and history must be serving a specific community. In the community, they have to be culturally based, directed, and controlled by individuals from the population they serve. So that's where the buy-in-for comes in. At the core of their programs, they must embody the community's central cultural values. These communities include ethnic and racial minorities, immigrants and refugees, individuals who identify as LGBTQ+, persons with disabilities, and the Native American population. So we have reached out in our county here, and just so you're aware, we are contracting with 8 organizations that we have identified as buy-in-for organizations. If you're curious to know who they are, I'll tell you real quickly. It's Centro Latino, Consejo Counseling, Korean Women's Association, the Multicultural Child and Family Hope Center, Our Sister's House, Pierce County AIDS Foundation, Rainbow Center, and Tacoma Ministerial Alliance. So those are 8 agencies that we're working for. We have more buy-in for agencies that we're working with here in Pierce County, then we have non-buy-in for. We have 6 other agencies we're working with to pull off this program and provide rental assistance. So that's the program. We're working with leadership from our department and leadership at the county level to hopefully identify some additional resources from the county that can be earmarked for this program. So our director has informed us that she's working on that. So hopefully there may be more funds coming from the county level. And we are aware as well that the state potentially may have more funding as well. So our hope is that our portal will be reopened, hopefully like around late this month or early October. We're shooting for like October 1 is our goal, but we'll see what type of resources we receive. And if the assistance continues as it is right now, what resources we may not spend between now and December. And the reason we cut it off is because we've got the buy-in for organizations that I mentioned to you who are going to be reaching out to the communities that they serve, and they're going to be bringing in other persons into this assistance who didn't apply through our portal. So Tacoma Ministerial Alliance will be reaching out to their community and assisting people just like the other 7 that are just like Tacoma Ministerial Alliance as an example. We have a few of these that will take 100% of the funds they use will be used for their community, and some of them we're going to 50-50. 50% of the funds they receive will be for their community, and 50% will be referrals from the county, so that both can be served. And the reason for that is that many of these organizations, some of them receive large dollar amounts. So we're trying to, with some of those agencies, have them serve their population as well as some referrals to get the full referral served. What I will also say is the REACH program is separate from our program. There were 2 fund pots from the state. One was the general ERAP program, which was the 10.7 million or roughly that much that we received directly at the county. And then there's just over 1 million that REACH received directly, because one's coming from the adult services program and one's coming from the Office of Homeless Youth. But it's all ERAP, all follows the same guidelines and requirements. It's just that the the young adult program will serve that youth and young adult population between 16 and 24. We're excited that Valerie yesterday and today is finishing up, is going to be sending them roughly 115 referrals out of the portal that meet that age criteria and meet that income eligibility criteria. She's been working frantically yesterday afternoon, and I know she's working on it this morning. She's a great multitasker. I'm sure she's working on it as we speak, or has already done it already this morning. So we're trying to move referrals to people and get these referrals out to the agency so that people can be served. So that's an overview of what we're doing. I will just like to share as well, the tenant rental assistance program is what's temporarily been shut down. We also have a veterans rental assistance program and a veterans mortgage assistance program that veterans can still go to our website and apply for. So if you know veterans who are in need of assistance, please send them to our website. That application is still there. We also have a separate mortgage assistance program for persons who aren't veterans. Our veterans program, I see Sean on the line, is working with the veterans piece of that. And then we have another housing unit on our team that's working with the other mortgage program, is my understanding. So those 2 programs are still there. If there are veterans with need of rental assistance or mortgage, or any other person in need of mortgage, please encourage them to go to our website and apply. There's 3 pieces there, and only our 1 piece of the 3 has been temporarily shut down. I want to make sure everyone's clearly aware of that, not the whole program as a whole. Okay? That's our update for today. That website, in case you don't know it, to access those other applications is www.piercecountywa.gov/housing-help. I'm going to ask Valerie, since she's such a great multitasker, she can maybe put that into the chat room. She's so good at that kind of thing. If you need that website for the programs that are still open, she'll put that in the chat room. That's our update.
Great, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, so it wasn't all doom and gloom, but yes, the one of the programs has reached its capacity at this point. I will hand off to Allison from the city. If there's any updates, she said that she would be the point person today, so take it away, Allison.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I've gotten a couple of questions in the chat about an action we took yesterday at 7th and Tacoma Avenue, so I want to address that. And then I'll touch a little bit on rental assistance and then do a reminder for you all about our digital infrastructure applications too. So the city did post a right-of-way adjacent to the First United Methodist Church there on Tacoma Avenue for an encampment cleanup slated to take place starting next Tuesday. That's after extensive outreach that we have done with individuals out there. We did place 4 individuals into the new micro shelter site. We have 1 individual who was placed at the stability site. We have 1 individual out there who's in communication with case management out at the new micro shelter site to get placed in there. And then we have 1 individual who, through the work of positive interactions, was able to make connection with their family and will be rehoused with them. So that is what is occurring out there. In terms of rental assistance, and thank you, Jeff, for the extensive update on the Pierce County program. I just want to remind folks that if you are working with City of Tacoma residents, LAHSA is still accepting applications, direct referral from nonprofit agencies for individuals for the city's program. So that is still open. And we are working with council. We'll be shortly making a recommendation to them about opening potential future rounds of funding. So just want to provide that as kind of a backstop to what Jeff was talking about. And then also remind you all that if you are a City of Tacoma funded agency, we did recently release application for funds to support digital infrastructure. So if you had to make changes to adapt to COVID, including the purchase of technology and subscriptions for software, things like that, those items are eligible under our recent funding announcement, and that application is open until the 8th of September. So Maureen is asking in the chat if city direct referrals are only for people of color. No, agencies, nonprofit agencies who are working with individuals are welcome to make those referrals as needed. So I think that's it for me, James, unless I see another question pop up in the chat.
I've got 2.
Or if you're willing to take Maureen's verbal questions.
They're okay. One is on the digital infrastructure. I think that's great. Does the agency have to be located in the City of Tacoma, or can it be one that's located somewhere else, like LAHSA, but that it has a contract with the City of Tacoma to work in the City of Tacoma?
That's a great clarifying question, Maureen. It's any contracted funded agency of the City of Tacoma, so
okay,
regardless of their location.
Okay, excellent. The other thing is, several of us have a concern that we're going to begin to see people sort of self-evicting because they don't fully understand the moratoriums, especially now with the federal one out. And that we heard last week from Paula Anderson that their outreach people have seen like 100 new people in the homeless community within their service area. So does the city do you have a plan of any sorts or a working group around it or something to prepare for what's very, very real potential of additional people living in vehicles, additional people in encampments? Yeah.
Yeah, and Maureen, I think that's a great question. I think every jurisdiction in the area is likely preparing for a potential wave of individuals experiencing homelessness, whether it's through self-eviction, whether it's just through, I can't afford to stay where I am, whatever that's looking like. Certainly there are numerous platforms through which the city is planning for and looking at those things. That includes, you know, our own efforts to increase shelter, you know, so that is certainly something we are actively working on. It also includes, of course, the work of the Affordable Housing Action Strategy work and that advisory group and their efforts to make sure that the affordable housing safety net as we move forward you know, continues to make progress there. I would also note that there is, in fact, a notice of funding availability out for affordable housing right now through our Community and Economic Development Department, and they are seeking applications for that. And then, you know, and I would invite this coalition. I know there's been several conversations about safe parking, and I believe actually that staff met with MDC yesterday, particularly on that item. So I know that, just as a reminder, our temporary shelter regulations do allow that should we receive a proposal from a faith-based organization or nonprofit. So those are all open avenues. I'd also just point you all to on the 15th of September, Neighborhood and Community Services will be giving an overall update to council on our homelessness strategy. So that's the 15th of September at noon will be a study session, which will have that as part of the update that'll be given that day. So those are kind of the things I would flag for you, Maureen.
I would ask also, that's all really helpful. But I would ask also that if it's possible for you to invite people who work, you know, with people experiencing homelessness in this city to, you know, an additional meeting. I know that's just what you want is one more meeting. But while the long-term solutions, the affordable housing action strategy, all that sort of stuff, those are really critical. But it's like, what are we going to do about the lady who's squatting across the street from me tonight? And so I think maybe even before this goes to council about safe parking and things, that if there's any way for you to invite representatives from this coalition to a conversation so that we are in a position to both support the things you're doing that we want to support and to bring additional items to the council's attention, because we only get one chance a month for the, you know, citizen forum. So anyway, just something to think about. So
sure, and I would actually, yeah, I would turn the invitation around, Maureen. If there's a group of individuals from the coalition that would like to meet with city staff, we can certainly offer that. You know, I think providers on this call hear from our staff almost daily. So I think if there's a subsection of the coalition that's looking for or interested in a meeting with staff, I would just invite you to maybe put that together and let us know when that works for you.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Allison, could you clarify for me the data integration or data sharing thing you commented on or mentioned a little earlier?
Sorry, Al, you cut out a little bit for me. Would you mind repeating that again?
You made some comment a little earlier about some kind of data sharing or data integration effort that the city's undertaking, and I'm not sure I understand what that is and how it connects with the other efforts to do data integration and data sharing.
Yeah, Al, what I was referring to was we currently have an application out for digital infrastructure if there were providers that need assistance funding changes that they have made to their operations in order to adapt to remote work. So that can include things like tablets, it can include software, it can include those kinds of things, and that funding application is available for providers right now. So that was my reference, sir.
Thank you.
Great. Normally Erica attends, but I think most people know how to get a hold of Allison and Erica. But if not, Allison, if you could drop your information, how to contact you via email or whatever your preferred way is in the chat box, that would be helpful.
Yes, and I also see a request for the link to the application, so I'll do that. Thanks.
Thank you. We have a couple more updates, folks, I want to hand off to, but before I want to give a little update of my own from one of our organization, people that work in my organization. If you guys haven't heard of the Peace Bus, he has come and presented at Coalition a couple of different times, and he's a great follow on Facebook too, and you can learn some of the work that Quavi's doing around the community. You've probably seen the blue bus driving around, giving out socks and things. But he made a pilot episode of a kind of Sesame Street style show. It was really good. We watched at my house the Facebook Live event, and he's doing a live event in Tacoma tonight, and I'm going to post all the information in the chat. It's going to be a drive-in style, social distancing. It's at 8 o'clock, 30 minutes. It's family friendly. It's really targeted towards children and families, with kind of taking on some of the social justice and other aspects of the topics. And this one specifically has a cute little story about a person who was formerly incarcerated and how he used baking pies to rehab his life or whatever. It's really cute. Lots of puppets and Muppet type stuff, but I put the information in the chat with a link to his Facebook page, which is worth a follow, and he'll keep showing it periodically on Facebook Live. It's not available to download or anything because he is trying to convince like PBS or someone to purchase it, but it has been shown on the local news and met the mayor and had all kinds of fun stuff. So there's that. If you haven't met with him or seen his blue bus, it's a pretty cool little effort. He did a trip down to the Mexico border wall last year and took socks and blankets and came to the Coalition and interviewed different kind of folks that are involved in the enforcement of the border wall and what their vision of peace is. It was a pretty cool little documentary if you didn't see that as well. So take a look. I will hand off. I know Colin's here, and I see some other folks that are doing the safe parking. So any updates on safe parking, Jan, Colin, or whomever?
Yes, James, I can give a quick update, and I don't know if Jan has anything. I'm guessing she's going to just let me do the update. We had a really good meeting yesterday, as Allison touched on, with actually management from the city and Pierce County. So the city of Tacoma and Pierce County, Pam, Duncan, and myself. So it was a really good meeting. We got some clarification, as Allison mentioned, on kind of what would the process moving forward potentially look like if we set up a safe parking site in Tacoma, and then also what it would look like if we set up sites in unincorporated or in Pierce County. So as Allison said, I was really relieved to see that we were going to be able to use a temporary shelter ordinance. So there is a pathway through it. And then for the county, John Barbie had sent it to me. I'm thinking I may have got it. I may not have gotten it. They have a similar ordinance in the county. And for faith-based organizations, this will be a pretty seamless, not a seamless, it's still a process. You still have to go through an application process to the city. One of the great things in the meeting was Erica was identified for the city of Tacoma, and then John Barbie for Pierce County as being kind of the leads that I will connect with, or the Safe Parking Network will connect with as we kind of walk through this process. So that'll be nice. To be clear, they're united in the sense that they're not by any means, I think they're not ready to be putting any funding into safe parking at this time. But with that being said, they are, I would say, supportive of, they're definitely not trying to block us, right? So they're supportive of making sure that we're on the same page as we kind of walk through this process. They helped identify some really key ideas. One of them being, I'm going to go back and talk to Greater Tacoma because the thought, as we all know, the funding from Greater Tacoma goes through the end of the year. So January 1, it's done, right? So we all know what December and January look like in Pierce County, and there's nothing worse than trying to shut down a homeless services program, especially if it's even for safe car parking. That's a really challenge in the winter months. So I'm going to really try to figure out how can we extend that without using city or county funding at this time. So there's definitely conversations to come, but I was really excited to see that. I think that a lot of us had fear that maybe there might be a blocking or a challenge from the city and the county, and I was definitely pleasantly surprised that there was support and openness to this project. Not necessarily, I think there's a lot of questions about it and kind of like, I don't know. and that's a wonderful thing about a pilot project. You know, I think the same thing happened with the Tims or the tiny houses. And I think what we've learned from that is it was successful. So let's do some more of it. And that's really the hope of this is let's find out, you know. So that's really that update. I have a similar email that has gone out to the council at City of Puyallup and also their police chief. I'm waiting to hear back from them to have a similar conversation with the City of Puyallup. There's been a lot of interest from some of the faith-based organizations in Puyallup, East Pierce County that usually participate in freezing nights. So I believe we're going to have our next Safe Parking Network meeting on next Tuesday at 3 o'clock. Megan's not here. I know she's back in school, but we'll send something out to the group when we finalize that date today. Yeah, but that's pretty much the update on it. Pam is also doing some footwork in talking to representatives from out in the Spanaway area, Lakewood area. So some areas that we know are really in need of services too. So thank you. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
I don't see any, so I'll go on to our next update. But again, Colin, maybe drop your info in the chat box if people don't know how to get a hold of you. I'm sure they'll find a way. So I saw Manu's here for the health department. I'm not sure if there's any updates. I didn't get any info on updates, but if you have any, Manu, take it away.
Hey everyone, I hope you can hear me. So I want to say thank you to the shelter providers that I was able to meet with for some consultations this last week, completed those, and just making some final edits on an executive summary that I'd be happy to share with the coalition with some key findings and recommendations I had. But you know, I just wanted to give a shout out to the shelter providers for doing their best despite limitations. And, you know, we provided them some health and safety guidance related to COVID, brainstormed through some just environmental and layout questions and issues related to, you know, specific to, the shelters. Going into this next week and season, we're working at the health department. We've established a new branch focused on immunizations. We've kind of been hinting at that during the previous calls. It's now in full effect, and so I've been reaching out to, part of those consultations I had was, you know, asking shelter providers for their preferences on a COVID and flu, like a joint effort to do COVID-19 testing with our mobile testing as well as immunization clinics. And so that's, you know, I'm in the process of relaying that information and incorporating that into planning. Right now, there's still definitely, I think the goal is to still get shelter providers to submit that request to bring the mobile testing. The good news is that there's a handful of them that are already on a rolling or on a rotation to have testing, mobile testing at their facility through December. So that's really going to help with planning and coordinating the immunization clinic. So, you know, just want to say, you know, we've come a long way from, you know, the kind of the early season of this pandemic. So now we have that mobile testing established, and we want to, you know, make sure that we extend that to the smaller shelters as well. And yeah, as new guidance kind of pops up, I know we're going to get some guidance from the state on dual testing for COVID and flu. My coworker and I are trying to develop a toolkit or a decision tree for shelters to have in preparation for that, because I know that, you know, with inclement weather as well, that's something that's on our radar, to really just kind of have something tangible for shelter providers to use and to inform their decision making when it comes to any sort of isolation and quarantine or anything related to, you know, any COVID or flu co-infection and exposure. Yeah, there's just scenarios that we're trying to work out on the planning side of things, and I'll be working with the shelter providers to collect more information and include them in the decision making as much as possible. And that's it for me, and I hope everyone has a good Labor Day weekend. Remember why we have Labor Day in the first place and who fought for Labor Day, and keep your Labor Day celebration small on behalf of the health department, please, and share that with your networks as well. Thank you all.
Thank you. I'm glad we did skip the groups because we would have not had an opportunity to do the updates, and there's been some updates so far. And I think Maureen is our last one on the advocacy and legislative updates.
Thank you. So if you go to the those of you who are not on your phone, if you go to the participant, if you click on participants, there's a little section at the very bottom that says raise hand, yes or no, etc. So I sent out an update yesterday, late in the day, as a PDF. Does that work better for you? Yes or no? And I'm hoping we get like numbers, but I haven't tried this before. I don't know if that's going to work or not. Well, there's a yes. Oh, they show up on the participant list. Okay.
Yeah, and I see the number as 6 yeses. So.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to try and do that again. The most important thing probably on the list is the whole eviction prevention for your clients who are housed or about to be housed, for your staff who may themselves be in some sort of at-risk situation, for yourselves, for your friends. We now have pretty specific guidance from the National Housing Law Project and the National Low-Income Housing Coalition. It came in early this morning on the executive order that the president issued, using the CDC authority, the public health law basis, to have an eviction moratorium through December 31st, not for all tenants and not without a set of rules that have to be followed. There are 5 declarations. So what I will do today is I will send those out. Do you want this in a PDF or do you want this just my forwarding? I don't know how many people just use their phone, and a PDF is a pain. And I don't know how to get an answer. Somebody talk to me, I guess.
I'm fine with a forward, but I would defer to anyone else.
I am too.
Just forward? Okay, I'm just going to forward this then that came in this morning. And now 2 other things related to eviction prevention. In addition to the rental assistance information that we received today from the city and the county, and thank you to both, and for taking hard questions as always. So the governor has convened a special working group, and that group is working today around evictions. And I don't know the framework. I know some of the people there, but I don't know everything about it. On the legal side, don't feel like you've got to have all the answers or your staff has to have all the answers. Contact Tacoma Pro Bono. They are funded to help. The Northwest Justice Project Clearline is going to keep going. And then for City of Tacoma, for tenants within the city, Chiquata Elder with the Landlord-Tenant Program. And there are advocates as well, the Washington Tenants Union, the Tacoma Tenants Organizing Committee. There are lots of grassroots groups out there. If you follow Nextdoor, you follow Facebook, you're aware of them. But anything that had most people who are not engaged in some sort of violent situation should be able to remain in their homes if they can check off the right boxes. And so I think that's a huge effort on our part. We'll keep as many people housed as possible. You saw the post earlier, I think from Tina, the Landlord Liaison Program. We are hearing about more and more tenants who are self-evicting out of fear. So please, please encourage tenants just to remain housed and help them see how to do that. So anyway, again, as always, thank you for this opportunity, and I will learn how to use chat better when I figure out how to actually post a link. I am going to have a new computer in 2 weeks, so maybe that'll help. Yeah, there are a lot of people. I can't actually access the city's agenda right now. So anyway, thank you all. Thank you for getting up every day and doing what you do.
So we've come to the end of the formal agenda, and as requested, I said previously, we'll leave, some of us are going to hang on to talk about how things went and what we're going to do next week, but this is also the good of the order. If you have a quick announcement that didn't make it on the agenda and you really want to make sure you have a chance to share it, people will start trickling out, but Rob and I and several others are going to be here for a while. So if you have a good of the order, feel free to throw it in the chat box or just unmute yourself and share. Or have a great 3-day weekend or whatever you're going to do next in the day, life, week, month.
Hey, James, this is Julian Wheeler. I just posted an announcement in the chat box. ACAC meets on Tuesday. If you're interested in attending, email me your interest. It's all in the chat box. Thank you.
And this is Charlene from Coordinated Care. I just also posted a note in the chat box in regard to Apple Health Core Connections, foster care health services for Washington's children and youth. So contact me or the AHCC team for questions or further information. Thank you. Thank you.
Lori, thank you for posting your information for Tacoma Pro Bono.
Absolutely. Feel free to contact us anytime, any questions, tenants, landlords, property managers. We're starting to get more referrals from this group. We really appreciate it.
Right.
Hey, James, it's your turn.
I've been chatting all day. I don't have anything specific. So I will let everyone have a great day and we'll see you next time. And then those that are going to hang tight and want to hang after, maybe take a 5 or so break to get some more water and such. And then we'll come back and we'll chat.
And remind people, it's not a closed group.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who wants to stay over, please do. This is where we discuss, you know, how things went and what's the goal for next week and who needs to do what as we're arranging all the coalition agendas and such. So if you have interest to either help out or just to listen or have suggestions and you want to hang on and ask some questions, feel free. It's definitely not